Good Monday evening, everybody. Welcome back to another video and my final video of 2024. Possibly. I'll probably have like my wrap-ups come throughout the rest of the week. But anyway, this is the video of the year. I'm finally going to give you not 10, but 15 of the best movies that I saw in 2024. And I did a count of how many new releases I watched this year. I came up with 76 new releases, and these are the 15 that I enjoyed the most. So, in a year filled with great horror, bad horror, excellent animation, a very crappy comic book movie year, and some pretty good sci-fi, which you'll definitely see my sci-fi pick later in this video. This was an overall balanced year on quality. There were some very, very bad movies, but I'd rather just do the best of the year. So these are the movies that I enjoyed the most and would rewatch at some point. And a few of them on here are movies that I actually watched this month. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on this video. So, at number 15, probably the most recent movie I watched. And when I mean recent, I watched this last night. My number 15 pick for best movies of the year was Late Night with the Devil. And this released on Shudder back in April, I want to say. And this is basically about a late night television program that has a Halloween special, and things escalate very quickly. So there was like this medium who started like sensing weird messages from like the afterlife, and his signal went way too strong and he eventually died. But then you have like this parapsychologist who has a little girl who was possessed by a demon, and this ending was bonkers, man. I was like, okay. There's another movie on here that has an even more bonkers ending. I'll definitely get to that very soon. But for found footage, this one was probably one of the best uses for that genre. And it really made you feel like you were watching something from the 70s. So, highly enjoyed it. That's my number 15 pick, Late Night with the Devil. At number 14 is my first animated film on this list. And a lot of people are going to disagree with me. I even struggle like putting this on the list. But I decided to put Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. Yes, there was a new Lord of the Rings movie out this year. And this ended up being anime. This movie surprised me very much. This takes place nearly 200 years before the events of Lord of the Rings. And this is basically about a princess who is. Okay, so her father killed a rival clansman, and the son, who had a deep infatuation with the princess, he goes on a path of revenge to take down the colony or village or whatever. And very compelling villain and wolf. I really enjoyed all the action scenes in here, but this movie bombed hard. I mean, even Warner Brothers Animation had no faith in this movie whatsoever. But I was one of the few people who actually saw this, and I really enjoyed it. Will I ever watch it again? Probably not. But for what it was a very, very well thought out story. So that was my number 14 pick. At number 13 is another big surprise for me this year. I had to put Strange Darling on this list somewhere. This movie was awesome. It's not going to be for everybody because it's told out of order, but it's basically a very twisted love story. And you have Kyle Gallner in here and Willa Fitzgerald in a cat and mouse game, and who will ultimately survive. Very awesome movie. So that's 13. At number 12, and I really debated on Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. But I decided, yes, I think this is worth talking about. This one was one of my most anticipated movies of the summer, and this is a prequel to Fury Road. And the character introduction of Furiosa. So it's kind of weird that Chris Hemsworth stole this movie from her. But I highly enjoyed this. Chris Hemsworth definitely put on a great villain performance. And I really do want to rewatch this at some point. So that was number 12. At number 11, just south of my top 10, I decided to go with Terrifier 3. Yes, I know that's very controversial, but I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. So, this is Terrifier, but set during Christmas time. All the kills were gory, but not as gory as Terrifier 2. But let me tell you, that shower scene is definitely one of the best kills of 2024. Although I did watch In a Violent Nature last night, the yoga kill in that, yikes. But the shower scene in Terrifier 3 is just over the top and just glorious. That's a new word. But this takes place about 5 years after the events of Terrifier 2, and we get Sienna Shaw in like a treatment center after her PTSD with Art the Clown. And we also have Jonathan in college. And Jonathan has like a thing for like this podcast host. And you definitely know her comeuppance. But I highly enjoyed this. All the deaths are very, very graphic, of course. But I really did enjoy how this thing began. But it was not over the top as I thought it would be. Because if Art the Clown killed kids, then that would be just too far. But it was implied. But that was a smart move on Damien Leone. And the way this thing wraps up, it makes me more excited for Terrifier 4. So, I'm actually getting this sometime tomorrow through Amazon. So I'll definitely have a physical copy of it tomorrow. But I digress. Okay, those are my 5 honorable mentions. Now on to my top 10. My number 10 was the one movie where I thought it looked extremely dumb, but it won me over very, very much. My number 10 is Wicked Part 1. And this is based off of the Broadway musical about the origin of Elphaba and Glenda. And they just go to school together and they become very close friends. But you sympathize with Elphaba because she becomes the Wicked Witch of the West. And Glenda is almost kinda the villain in this movie because she really doesn't like Elphaba at first. That's pretty much the entire movie. And all the musical numbers are very enthralling and probably, this probably has one of the best endings of the year. And it definitely makes me excited for Wicked for Good. I definitely can't wait to see how this thing wraps up. So, that's my number 10, Wicked. At number 9, Transformers 1. I love this movie. This is the Transformers that I wanted for years. So this is a prequel that introduces Optimus Prime and Megatron. And they're just like lowly miners on Cybertron. And they are friends throughout this entire movie. But when Megatron figures out Sentinel Prime's real objective, that's when it goes down into villain territory. Man, this movie was good. But it was marketed terribly. Because in the trailers, it was definitely made for kids. But this is a way darker movie once you watch it. And it's unfortunate that this movie bombed. But I really enjoyed this one. At number 8, I'm staying on the animation trend, Inside Out 2. I had no idea that I was going to like this as much as I did. And I just watched the original leading up to this, and I don't have any kids, but I can see how this relates to adults as well, because you have like a new emotion in here, anxiety, and I think it captured that emotion perfectly. I mean, is the story derivative? Yes. But you do get that feeling of what it is to be a teenager and go through adulthood. And that really struck a chord with me. So, really enjoyed this one. It's easily going to be nominated for Best Animated Feature, but there is one more animated film that I have on this list higher that I know is a shoe-in for Best Animated Feature. I'll get to that soon. But at number 7, probably the funnest horror movie of the year. And I can actually show you my physical copy of Abigail. I still haven't opened it yet. But I'm hoping to do a rewatch of this probably tomorrow or Wednesday. But this movie surprised the hell out of me. I had a lot of fun with it. So it's just about like these delinquents who wants to rob a house, but they are pursued by a ballerina vampire. A lot of people are very mixed on this, but I enjoyed this movie so freaking much. At a point, this was my number 2 favorite movie of 2024. But you'll see what my top 2 are very soon. But Abigail was dope. And at number 6, and I gotta say, what a massive demotion. I really struggled with my top 5. But my number 6 is Deadpool and Wolverine. Yes, I had to put this on the list. This was my favorite movie of the year. But my top 5 is better. I do think the story is very derivative, but just the nostalgic cameos put a huge smile on my face. And this was easily the most rewatchable film of the year. I mean, I haven't watched it since I got it, but I saw it twice in theaters. And I definitely can't wait to rewatch this time and time again. But I mean, when I first saw Blade, Channing Tatum as Gambit, and Elektra in here, I about stood up and yelled. I didn't though, but I was definitely excited for that cameos. And this movie's awesome. It's easily the funniest, and it's easily the best of the Deadpool trilogy. But Deadpool and Deadpool 2 are awesome. But this one is probably the most rewatchable. So at number 6, easily my favorite comic book movie of the year. It was no contest. Deadpool and Wolverine. Okay, we made it to the top 5. And my God, this was the hardest top 5 to come up with. But I have it. At number 5 is probably one of the most emotional movies that I watched this year. And it's not even a movie per se. No, it is Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. I hardly watch documentaries, but this moved me. It was so powerful, and you definitely get that emotion for Christopher Reeve. Yes, he is flawed, but when his accident happened, the whole world stood still, because you're like thinking Superman is paralyzed. Man, this movie was tough to watch. And he had a very good relationship with Robin Williams. He really helped him out through his injury. And he lasted nearly 10 years before he passed away in 2004, I believe. And shortly after, his wife died of lung cancer. And it was just a very heartbreaking movie. Whew. So that was my number 5 pick. Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. And speaking of almost bawling my eyes out, easily my favorite animated movie of the year was The Wild Robot. Oh, this was an exquisite film. I mean, probably one of the most beautiful stories, with probably one of the most beautiful animation styles that I've ever seen. So this is the story of Roz, which is like this AI robot who just caters to everybody's needs and commands. She gets dumped into like the wilderness, and she becomes an outsider to the animals. But she learns all the animals' language, and she befriends a baby goose, and she just taught the baby goose to eat, sleep, and fly. And my God, this movie just envelops you in emotion. It can make you cry, and it can make you very, very happy at the same time. I want to rewatch this movie so bad again. And I don't say that very often for animated movies, but this was a very, very good movie. Number 4, The Wild Robot. Top 3. My number 3, without a doubt, is... Well, I'll just insert a poster here, but I have a 2 film collection of Dune. So, Dune Part 2 came out back in March. And this movie blew me away on its sci-fi and cinematography. And this is easily the best looking movie of the year. I know a lot of people are going to put it in the top spot, but I think Part 2 like overshadowed Dune. Dune to me was incomplete. So Dune Part 2 was a major anticipation for me. I really wanted to see how the first book ended with Dune Part 2. But Paul Atreides needs to fight Fade Rotha to become the Messiah and ultimately become Lisan al-Gaib. I loved Dune Part 2, and it's a movie that I really want to rewatch. And I'm not that big of a sci-fi guy, but I also read Dune this year, and that ended up being my 3rd favorite book of the year. Not a coincidence that Dune Part 2 ended up being my 3rd favorite movie of the year. But awesome movie. Highly want to rewatch it. That was my number 3 pick. Top 2. Both of these movies I watched were pretty much not even a week ago. So, my number 2 and number 1 are both horror films. So, I never did get a chance to review both of these because I watched so many movies in December. I just ran out of time. But I'm going to tell you that Nosferatu is my number 2 movie of 2024. I was highly anticipating this movie. Robert Eggers remaking Nosferatu, I was definitely on board for it. And my God, this is exactly what I wanted it to be. This movie is just filled to the brim with gothic atmosphere and disturbing content. So, Nosferatu is based off of Bram Stoker's Dracula, and this was known to be like the very first vampire movie ever made. The original came out in 1922. And after watching this, it makes you feel like you're watching a movie from like the 1800s. The cinematography is on point, and you just have like that classic monster movie feel. And Bill Skarsgård definitely puts on a chameleon-like performance as Count Orlok. I didn't even know that was Bill Skarsgård. I'm like, holy crap. But you also have Nicholas Hoult. You have Lily Rose Depp, which I think will definitely be in talks for an Oscar nomination. and you have Aaron Taylor Johnson as the three co-stars, and Nicholas Hoult is almost like your main guy, and he just meets Count Orlok, and he wants to make a deal with him in like real estate. But it turns out Count Orlok has a thing for Lily Rose Depp, and it's up to Nicholas Hoult to stop Count Orlok before he takes her from him. And you also have the addition of Willem Dafoe in here, and he is probably the standout in this movie. This ending blew me away. It was so bleak, and you just feel that emotion. Oh man, I would easily go rewatch this. So that is my runner up. The moment y'all have been waiting for. This was probably my most difficult number one, but I have it. My favorite movie of 2024 is probably one of my most recent watches as well. Number one is The Substance. If you would have told me this movie dealt with body horror and female empowerment, I definitely thought that this movie was gonna be not for me. But I finally watched it, and I absolutely dug the hell out of it. So, this movie came out back in September, I believe. And I really regret not seeing this in theaters, because it definitely would have been a trip. But this stars Demi Moore as a aging actress, and she is very let down by the way that she looks. So she makes a call, and she wants this mysterious youth serum, simply called The Substance. And this substance makes a younger, more beautiful version of you. So she takes the substance, and Margaret Qualley is born. So Margaret Qualley is Sue, and she basically takes over Elizabeth's fitness program, and she becomes everything that she wants to be. So she becomes very successful, but she gets out of hand, and she steals life force from Elizabeth. But in the end, Sue starts falling apart, and she takes the substance, and the last 20 minutes is just pure body horror. The last 20 minutes of this film blew me away. And I thought this was one of the best endings of 2024. So, in my top 5, well, actually, from 7 to 1, I would have easily gave all these movies A pluses. So, really enjoyed The Substance, and I really want to rewatch it. But I also forgot about Dennis Quaid in here. He was probably the wackiest part of this film because he was just so over the top. But I really love this movie. And we can finally have a year where the Oscars might recognize horror. And easily Nosferatu and The Substance are probably going to sneak their way into Oscar territory. So, those are my top 15 movies of 2024. Very difficult to put together, all over the place on what I liked. But I mean, that always happens because I'll see pretty much anything that I'm interested in. So, some of these movies are not going to be in the best of the year list for other people, but these are the movies that I absolutely loved. So, thank you for another awesome year. And my next video, more than likely, is going to be my January TBR. And then I'll do my wrap-ups. So, this is my last official video of 2024. And thanks for supporting me and having me bringing you all of these movie reviews, all of these book hauls, and other stuff for the channel. I'm definitely going to keep going for next year and bring you some awesome videos for 2025. But that's it. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next year. Happy New Year to everyone. And I really appreciate everybody who watches. So, look forward to more videos, and I'll see you soon. Adios. Peace. And let 2025 be good to everyone.